Well, that's interesting. That's good. Good. Okay. All right, but anyway, everybody, you see that? Primary bronchi divide upon entering the lungs. And one thing right here, bronchi, the bronchial tree consists, okay, look at this, everybody. Remember I said a while ago, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, bronchioles, terminal bronchioles. All right, those airways are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Right there. There's cartilage, the amount of cartilage, there's cartilage in the primary, there's a little bit in the secondary. Tertiary, the cartilage, I think, is pretty much disappeared, for sure, in the bronchioles and in the terminal bronchioles. Now, the terminal bronchioles open into the alveolar ducts and then to the alveoli. And so the airways are getting smaller and smaller. And I'm telling you what, smoking, being around smoking will mess up your airways. I mean, really, seriously, it will be. It will impede your airways. It will do it over a period of time. It's not good to be around the secondhand stuff. I know you have to because you got to work. I understand that. I do understand that. But the secondhand smoke, y'all, there is a heck of a lot of evidence against it right now. There's a heck of a lot of stuff out there against being around secondhand smoke and the dangers of it. I mean, I'm just telling you a fact. All right, but I understand if you have to work, you got to be around it. I understand all that stuff. But right here, everybody, the finer air passageways from the terminal bronchioles are, and it's going to get into the alveolar stuff. That'll get into the respiratory bronchioles, the alveoli. I forgot to mention that one. I remember primarily, I remember things like the airways get smaller. We have the trachea, the primary bronchi, the secondary bronchi, the tertiary bronchi, the terminal bronchioles, and so there you have the tertiary, the bronchi. I mentioned, I didn't left out one there. The bronchioles, the terminal bronchioles, and then they use the term respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, and then of course the alveoli and the alveolar sacs. That's what becomes stretched and torn in emphysema. And emphysema will not heal itself. Emphysema is a progressive thing, and it really will not. If a person's got emphysema, I knew one old fellow in the store, his name was S.T. Johnson. Everybody called him by the nickname Toogie. S.T. Nice old man. Had a S.T. Johnson had a son named Willie, and Willie Johnson was a great big guy, heck of a basketball player in high school. He must have been about 6'5", which was pretty tall back in those days. But Mr. Johnson, his daddy, was a heavy smoker through the years, and he developed emphysema, and he did quit his smoking, but I'd see him out walking. He said, well, they told me to walk, it might help me a little bit, and he did. He did finally die, though. He did finally die from congestive heart failure. All right, but right here, everybody, there is it. Look at that. That's out of your book, right there. All right, there it is. Trachea, primary, secondary, tertiary, then bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, and this is called right here. There is there's the tree right there, the respiratory tree or whatever. There it is right there. That's just kind of showing what the X-ray would show. Now that's the color you want your lungs to be. That is the color you would want your lungs to be. That's kind of that pink, kind of a pinkish, healthy look to the lungs. And see that the amount of cartilage is getting less and less. But there's the respiratory area. That is the way it is. You might want to make a note. Let me just give you a hint here. I do have a question on the test dealing with the size of these tubes, the smallest one. I don't get, Shanna, I don't go way on down to the alveolar ducts. If I have alveolar ducts, you would know that would be very, very small. But like I might have, see you have trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, then it gets into that alveolar stuff. So if I have, you kind of have an idea. That's the bronchial tree. The bronchial tree kind of gives you an idea, and those airways get smaller and smaller. This is what asthma affects. Asthma, and also anaphylactic shock from a bee sting or penicillin. See, anaphylactic shock, what kills a person in anaphylactic shock is the small airways go like that. And you have to have an EpiPen, epinephrine. When those small airways do this, I mean, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation won't do any good because they're locked. In asthma, the airways, asthma is an allergic reaction. And in asthma, the small airways do this. And the breathing is hard. The breathing is tough. Okay, it's hard, you know, so those small airways, you know, that's kind of the way that works. Everybody got all you need on that? There's the, oh, copy the tree, Nikki. Nikki, we'll give you another half a minute. I'm going to count.
I'm good. You can take it out.
All right. You good? Okay. You got it? Okay, there it is. That's the small airway. There's an actual x-ray, a bronchiogram. Primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi. You know, that's just kind of showing some of it, an actual x-ray of the lung setup, of the bronchial tree setup. All right, and then this gets on down, your terminal bronchi, you know, there's the alveolar duct and the alveoli and so forth, and that's, you're going to, now, when we look at a slide, we're going to look at a slide of the lungs, and I'm going to say the lung slide looks like a road map. If you look at one of those little road maps, the lung slide is going to have a look, kind of have a look like the little country roads. The lung, that's what the lung slide. And that's about, it's not exciting to look at. I can't really tell on the lung. See, that says alveolar ducts. That says terminal bronchial, alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs. And I'm, you know, we'll look at it and we'll say, well, I'll say this is probably an alveolar duct. You know, this is probably a terminal bronchial. We'll take a look at it and see if we can kind of speculate. But that's about all we do with that lung slide. So there, that's just kind of showing you that business right there. Now the lungs are paired organs, obviously. You know that the right lung has 3, the left lung has 2 lobes. There's a depression in the left side called the cardiac notch. And the cardiac notch causes the heart, remember, the apex of the heart goes toward to the left hip, the base toward the right shoulder. It's a little bit to the left of the midline, and there's a cardiac notch in there. There's a notch in there for, you know, for the heart. So the right lung 3 lobes, the left lung 2, and that sort of thing. No gas exchange occurs, and you know this. Gas exchange occurs across the alveolar capillary membrane. That's where gas, what gas? Oxygen and CO2. O2 and CO2. And that's just, I think I showed you that picture before. That's out of the Seeley-Stevenson tape book. That's out of Seeley-Stevenson tape. That's just kind of showing that thing again. All right, disorders, very quickly, emphysema. Emphysema, alveolar walls lose their elasticity, remain filled. Now here's what y'all have to remember. You have to remember this. You got to remember this. A person with emphysema can take air in, but they can't get air out. That is the problem. They can do this. A person with emphysema can do this. They can do this. They can take air in, but the air doesn't go out. The air will not go out. And what starts rising is the CO2 level, the carbon dioxide level. And carbon dioxide level, everybody, if it gets way too high, a person will go into a coma. That will put them down. They'll appear drunk. They will appear drunk when the CO2 level gets too high. That's why they intubate, is to flood pure oxygen in there, displace the carbon dioxide. And that's what gets people, they go into what's called respiratory acidosis. That's where the pH of the blood starts going lower than 7.35 or 7.4 and starts going down. My mother went, I can talk to you about respiration. I'm not talking to you out of my rear end about respiration. I mean, respiration, everybody. Respiratory problems. I had first-hand experience with that. First-hand experience. I mean, the afternoon my mother died, I mean, she was a fighter. She had these nasal cannula. She walked around the sofa. I was there with my dad, and he said, why don't you go back to the store and I'll stay here? And he called me about an hour later and said, well, she's gone. You know, that's the way it went.